This is Canada FC on Canada Talks.
That's right, this is Canada FC on SiriusXM Channel 167 Canada Talks. Welcome back for another week. I'm Aron Papernick. You can find me on Twitter at Paperboy416. And I have a couple new guests in the studio this week. Joining me in the studio is someone who's been on the phone. He's appearing live in person for the first time. Duane Rollins of CanadianSoccerNews.com, and you can find him on Twitter at 24th Minute. How's it going, Duane?
Good to be here. Always exciting, if not sometimes confusing times in Canadian soccer, so lots to talk about.
Beautiful, and thanks for coming in this week. And we have another guest in studio. His name is Adrian Bradbury, and you can find him on Twitter at Adrian Bradbury. And you know, football is still going on. It's going on in the world. It's wound down in the MLS. Various leagues are still going on, but it is coming up to Christmas time and holiday time, and this is actually the last show of 2013 for Canada FC. I will be going on break for the holidays. But I wanted to bring Adrian Bradbury in. He works for an organization called Gulu United. It's a team called Gulu United FC, and you can find them on Twitter at guluunited.com. Adrian, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me on.
So we were put in touch through mutual friends, and I was told he had a charity that involves soccer, and I said, sounds great, two things that sound good to me. So tell me, what is Gulu United FC, and how did it start?
I think it did start as charity. To your point, I've been working in northern Uganda since 2005 as an advocate. Did a bunch of other initiatives, and when I was there I was kind of in and out of the region, kind of 2 or 3 times a year, and through those times I bumped into this club, Gulu United, and at the time they were in the top league in Uganda, in the Super League, their Premier League. But during the conflict and the situation there, the club ended up dissolving. And there was a real eagerness to get the club going again, and more than anything, to give some hope and some energy to the community, which was recovering from a civil conflict that had lasted for over 20 years. And we were lucky enough to I found some individual donors that kind of kicked in some cash to get them going again. And the idea then was, let's see if we can get the senior side kind of back in that top division, and then allow them the opportunity to kind of sustain it locally and really keep it going. The problem was where business was, the dollars weren't there, the team ended up folding. And it was kind of too much too soon for them. And so this kind of next generation, kind of where we are now, I said to them, whenever you want to start again, if you want to, really take a run at it, I'm happy to be involved. I'm happy to do some fundraising. I'm happy to find a new creative way for us at this, but it needs to start with youth. And that's this next generation of Gulu United.
So what stage is the new youth of Gulu United at now? What has your organization, guluunited.com, and on Twitter, Gulu United, done for the youth, and where do they stand now?
Yeah, so we had, there's a volunteer group of about a dozen folks who kind of came to me and said, we're ready. We want to do this with youth. We understand that kind of the 18 to 30 set who were part of this know that the time might have passed for them, but they want to now invest as coaches and volunteers and be a part of building it. So they kind of scoured the region. It's a region of about 6 million people. It's 7 hours from Kampala, a long, bumpy, arduous, painful road from Kampala. And they scoured the region to find the best 100 kids to run a 2-week camp with the idea of, let's just bring them together, let's see what's there, and let's get the community talking again about football. I said, if you guys do that, I'll raise the money. So I just did a quick kind of Indiegogo campaign, crowdfunded it. Christian Jack, who kind of footy fans are familiar with through his work with the Score and now at TSN, was a supporter, and we got together and raised the funds that we needed, about $15,000 to get over there, to get some equipment, to house the kids and bring them together for 2 weeks. And kind of in that, I have a partnership that I'm kind of building with Brentford Football Club in London. They're a League One club. They were a crossbar away from going up to championship last year, if anybody has seen some of those YouTube highlights. And a club with real ambition and real interest. And I approached them to say, this isn't charity. This actually, I think there's something here. There's kids that are hungry and love the game. And I'd love for a coach to come over and work with them, work with the coaches, work with the players, and tell me kind of what's here. Is there some talent? Is there some real hunger here? And can we build something together? And that was in September. I made that first trip, and now we're planning and thinking about how we kind of take this to the next level.
When we cover sport, we too often get focused on the end results. I mean, that's what sport's about. Sure. It's about winning and losing at its root. But I wonder for you, what would represent success? If we flash forward 10 years from now, what is success for Gulu United?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's funny because that's changed for me in the past 6 months. So when I went there, kind of really thought, you think about community, you think about education, you think about just opportunities for youth and a lot of the feel-good things that come with it being quote-unquote charity. And I think now it's changed for me. I'm 43 years old. And when you say that timeline, 10 years, I'm starting to think about 7. And to be honest, we're now thinking in 7 years, I'd love to be able to, and there's 3 things. I'd love to be able to see one kid from Gulu United playing on the Uganda national team. I'd like to see Gulu United in kind of the top third at the Super League in Uganda. And we'd like to see at least one kind of player from Gulu United playing in a major league in Europe. And it's changed for me because, you see all the African footballers and people know everything that's happened globally with the game and where the opportunities are. I think the thing now that I'm kind of really stuck on and focused on is these kids leave when they're kind of often 13 or 14 and they head to places like France and Belgium and look at guys like Lukaku and others. And those are all really great stories and it's nice promotion for the nation. But those communities and those clubs of where those guys are from have never benefited. So for me, wouldn't it be incredible and special if we could keep the kids there in a place like Northern Uganda, build Gulu United, where those kids were leaving at 18 and 20, and those initial transfer fees to other clubs were actually going back into a community like that and building it. Why can't they be as funded and as successful as an MLS kind of level side or a League One or a League Two in England or elsewhere? No one really thinks about it that way. It's all about charity and let's just kind of and get the best kids out of there. We're thinking now about how do we keep them there? How do we fund that? How do we support it? And build a community and actually create a real club there.
You're listening to Canada FC on SiriusXM, Channel 167, Canada Talks. I'm Aron Papernick, in studio with Adrian Bradbury of Gulu United. You can follow him on Twitter at Adrian Bradbury and Gulu United at Gulu United, and also with Duane Rollins of CanadianSoccerNews.com. So, Adrian, how often do you get to go back to Uganda to check up on the progress, and are you seeing progress from visit to visit?
Well, this was when I made the trip in September. It was the first time I'd been in over 5 years.
Wow.
So the hope is to get there more often now. We had a trip planned. So when we were there in September, part of the reason of doing that was also to kind of identify some of the best kids and give them an opportunity to kind of match their skills against a higher level. So the plan was to bring one of the kids to Brentford for a week trial, as well as a coach to be able to get some training. So we had that all planned to happen in November, and then visas got pulled from us right before they were about to get on the plane. So we're going to plan that. We have it rescheduled for February. So that's kind of the next trip is to bring, Keeper Lawalu, who's a 15-year-old kid who we think is going to match up really well. The coach I brought from Brentford thinks he's going to match up really well. And then we'll see. We don't know until we get him out there. The thing is, he looks really good. We had him playing with older kids. They're also playing in bare feet. With equipment that they're not they're going to come across equipment and pitches and that in London that they don't see in northern Uganda, but we're confident that he's going to hold his own, and then from there we'll see where it goes.
So for Canadians and Americans listening to this show on SiriusXM and hearing you, they go to GuluUnited.com. They'll follow at Gulu United on Twitter. How can we support, and what does our support actually do on the ground for the kids there?
Yeah, so we just started a supporters club campaign with an opportunity for folks to join the supporters club. And our goal is 100 members by the end of the year. And if we get 100 members, it's a monthly contribution for as little as $10 a month. There's some incentives and things that you get for jumping on board. But if we get 100 members by the end of the year, I can fund the youth program for the entirety of 2014. And that would include coaches, equipment, some travel and friendlies, and some real significant programming, not just in Gulu proper, but in kind of all the rural communities. We want to reach out to all the schools in the region and really start to build a game. So, yeah, it's amazing that we can get 100 people together and that would be enough to make it happen. We can, a full-time coach and a good salary is $250 a month. So it goes a long way. Yeah.
Some people, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Some people listening to this, they might think that this part of the world, it might have more pressing needs than a soccer team, clean water, schools, you name it. So just tell us, why is sport important to this region of the world?
Yeah, I think, for so many reasons. I think when we originally dug into it, there is this kind of element of hope and opportunity. I think kind of without hope and that kind of vision that there's something more than kind of in my own village or kind of outside my own community, I think is very, very important. I think there's an element of a focus and attention that also kind of mixes it into education and training and work opportunities and that as well. I think there's that as well. And I think for us, what we've really seen we did the camp in September, which was really amazing, is we did this fundraiser. We completely funded it. We didn't ask a thing of the community. They're going to run another camp in January that I won't be at. That is going to be completely funded. So what ended up happening by us doing that, we now have local government officials who are going to kind of give dollars to feed the kids. The school that we rented is now going to give space for free so the kids can stay over. The families of the kids that are participating are going to give their time to support it, as like come and cook and do things for the kids so that they can run. So they're going to completely do it on their own. And we're going to take on a different role of kind of the coaches and the equipment and the training and getting some kids over for trials. So they're already embracing it. So the opportunity to kind of bring folks and rally them around it is kind of goes beyond those basic needs and really brings people together.
I think it's a great idea on so many levels. I'm a father now, so I have a small kid, and I realize the value of sport in a kid's life. Here in a world where my situation is vastly different than there in that region of Uganda, but still some things are universal, like self-esteem, physical fitness, teamwork, hand-eye coordination, all those things. And soccer, football, what have you, is a great sport. And I have my kid in a learner's program, and he loves it. And this program is great because I can see, as I said, the benefit to kids worldwide. And anyone who watches any top-flight football of any league, you know that the game is universal, and the players come from all over the world, and they play all over the world. And I feel like there is a real brotherhood in the game, despite the fierce divisions and rivalries that happen sometimes between clubs and their supporters. There's a real unity to the game, and it really is the world's game. And this is a great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I want to thank you, Adrian Bradbury, for coming on Canada FC to talk about it this week. You can follow Adrian at Adrian Bradbury on Twitter, follow Gulu United at guluunited.twitter, and read more about the cause at guluunited.com. And you can also follow them on Twitter at Gulu United. Thanks a lot for coming in the studio this week, Adrian.
Great, thank you.
This is Canada FC on SiriusXM Canada Talk. Stay with us. A lot more soccer talk right after the break. Don't go away. You've been watching the game in both Africa and Uganda and in Canada, and of course you watch it all over the world. What are some of the differences and the different challenges in developing players in Uganda versus other parts of the world, Adrian?
Yeah, it's a good question because we've been thinking a lot about it, and I think my opinion's changed since my trip in September, and now that we've started to look at it. Like we have this ideal that kind of all the top footballing nations are, we often look to the UK just because of where Premier League is and how close we are to it around the academy system, and they do a lot of great things. I think what ends up happening is there's this idea where you take a system like that and you try to drop it in a place like northern Uganda with plush fields and the best facilities and training and replicate what's happening there. And the thing I often say is, kind of when's the last time kind of the UK produced a world-class football, and not to diminish a lot of the great things that are happening. And there's lots that can be learned. I think there's a lot of incredible coaches, what I learned from Brentford. But we often drop in a place like that without kind of taking into account what makes the kids in a place like northern Uganda really special. And some of the things we observed was they're as tough and as hungry as anyone I've ever seen on the planet. So they played without boots. We had about 100 kids. We had 20 kids with boots-ish, and we had about 80 without. And there'd be a 50-50 ball, kid with boots, without boots, and it is not, it does not even cross their mind. They don't even think, you just get stuck in and you get on with it. You couldn't get our kids to play all of them with bare feet with a ball, and that wouldn't happen.
Wow.
And I think there's also this idea of how much, my kids play academy soccer here, and they really want to be footballers, and it's something that's really important to them, and they work hard. but they don't need it in the same way that those kids need it, and that's how they play and perform. And it would be great to see how you can kind of fake that or create that environment for our kids around this real, how much they need it, and build in a hunger along with all the great kind of training and opportunity they have as well.